In a way, I guess I trick myself into eating healthy, which ends up working out because I also end up doing less dishes too. And who doesn't love that? So this air fryer miso salmon is so simple and it happens to be healthy. Let's get started. So I'm using skin on salmon for this recipe. I love salmon, but you can also swap it out for boneless, skinless chicken thighs. It'll still be super juicy, really tender, and the marinade works well for either protein. And I know some people are wary about fish just because it smells fishy, and your fish shouldn't smell fishy. It shouldn't have an odor, because if it's smelling fishy, that means that it's old and it's not fresh. And I wouldn't blame you for not wanting to eat that. Your salmon should be vibrant in color. It shouldn't be pale or bruised or looking dry. So I recommend getting the skin on salmon fillets because that skin is gonna help you when you try to take that salmon out of the tray. It'll be in one piece. Also, that skin acts as like a fatty barrier so that it's not gonna dry out. And make sure that your salmon is fully defrosted and you pat it down really well. This is gonna make sure that the marinade doesn't get watered down. So now that we have our salmon ready, now let's make the marinade. I usually make marinade in a Ziploc bag just because it's less dishes, and if I want to toss it into the freezer for an easier make ahead meal, it just makes it that much easier when I just have zero time. You can also put this marinade in any kind of airtight container, that works too. Okay, so for the marinade, we are combining low sodium miso paste, low sodium soy sauce, mirin, garlic, sesame oil, and ginger. Mirin is this Japanese cooking wine that you can find at local Asian markets, Japanese markets, or even on Amazon. What I noticed is that it's very common to use in marinades because it makes it much more flavorful, and I notice a difference in my proteins too. Like, it just becomes more tender and juicy. And even if it's marinating for 15 minutes or so, it makes such a big difference. If you can't find mirin, sake works too. Combine your marinade together and then add in the salmon fillets. Make sure it's well coated and then let it marinate for about 15 minutes or so. Once you're ready to cook, preheat your air fryer at 400 degrees. And I like to line the air fryer tray with a little bit of a foil just because, if you can't tell, I like to do minimal dishes. But if you don't have any foil, then you can just lightly brush it with some oil to prevent the sticking. Cook it for about 8 minutes-ish, depending on how thick the fillets are. You can also cook it in the oven at 425 degrees. I just prefer using the air fryer because it doesn't heat up my entire house, and I really like the caramelizing that I get on the air fryer. Your salmon should be ready about 8 minutes in or so, depending on how thick the fillet is. You can check the thickest part and it should be pretty easy to flake apart. And it shouldn't be bright pink anymore. It should be like a nice mellow pink. Let the salmon rest for about 5 minutes or so just to keep all the juices in the fish. I usually love eating this with some rice. If I want to go extra healthy, then I will put this on top of mango salad. It's so good. I'm not gonna lie, this is my second piece because I devoured the first one. This is like literally one of my favorite things ever.